All right, Gary Kirwan, thank you for coming on the Nootralize podcast.
Cool. Thank you for having me on.
Sure. Can you tell us a bit about yourself, your history, and what you do?
Yeah, sure. So my name's Gary Kirwan. I'm the founder and host of the Biohackers Lab podcast. And Biohackers Lab has been around as a side project since about 2014 for me. And then I started getting more serious into it. I think it was around about 2017. But I've been in the biohacking community realm area since I'm trying to remember the exact date. I have it on my blog post somewhere. But that was way back when it was Bulletproof Coffee days, when it just come out. And it blew my mind back then to think, why the heck would you put butter in your coffee? Like, what is this all about? But ever since I tried that experiment out back then, yeah, I just loved the world of biohacking, the world of self-optimization, N=1. So I think that was the late 2000s or around about 2010 when I got into that. And yeah, I've just loved it ever since.
Right. Why do you love self-optimization and N=1?
Because I really do believe that when it comes to solving health problems or trying to optimize yourself for whatever your goal is in life, we're all unique. So medicine is not always black and white too. Medicine is very gray at times. So, or healthcare, I should say. So there's certain times when it's black and white. You know, if you go to an emergency room in a hospital, there's certain things you just have to do or you don't have to do to make sure the patient lives. But then for a lot of things out there, there's little tweaks, you know, so you could go in a general direction, but then you need to tweak it for your needs too. And I think that's really powerful. And I used to see that all the time, which is why the world is so different. There are so many different types of people in this world. So the same with healthcare, where we can all follow a different journey and learn how our physiology is. So I'll use an example where your life has been very different to my life, you know, where you've lived, what you've been exposed. So your physiology, the way your body works, might work slightly different to the way my body works. So also from an age point of view, or, you know, anything, genetics, race, whatever it happens to be. So yeah, I do believe that you're going to get a little bit more out of what you're trying to achieve if you also take the general concept, but then you try to tweak it for your personal needs too, which is N=1. Yeah, like just a single person situation.
Right, I agree. What is it that you're trying to achieve?
For me, it's just I want to live a good life. So I just enjoy feeling good and knowing how to feel good too. That's really what I want to achieve. Where right now I'm in my last year of my 30s. I'm just about to cross over into the 40s soon. And I just want to live a fulfilling life, full of energy, and be able to do what I want to do. And just know that what I'm doing right now also puts me in good stead for later on in life. Because when I'm in my 70s or my 80s, I, again, want to live the best life that I can live at that point until the day I die. So that's really my goal, is just to know what can I do to do maybe what I need to do now, but also what I'm doing now is going to pay dividends down the line into the future at the same time.
How do you know if something works for you specifically? Like you mentioned earlier that it is very important to experiment on yourself because you're very unique. But if you're trying to achieve future states of well-being, how do you measure that now, if it's working or not?
Well, quantify wise, I would say probably the best ways is using objective measures. Blood tests are something simple where you could look at parameters if you really wanted to get into. And I mean, there's a bajillion different types of blood tests. Whatever you're trying to tweak, and just see, are you within parameters, or maybe some research says you need to be, you know, in another level, whatever it happens to be. So that could be one way that you can tell now what you're doing is actually good for you, potentially all the way into the future. You could do tests like something that I did was the calcium coronary scan on your heart. So that's when you go into the CT machine and it scans your heart to look for any calcium deposits there and looking for potential risk factors for a heart attack in the future. So, I mean, heart attacks or myocardial infarctions are a huge cause of death later on in life. So again, what you could be doing if you wanted to sort of look into the future potentially is even do scans like that of your heart and see, okay, how is my body coping? Is it starting to lay down plaques and problems? And then I need to take action now to save into the future. So that could be another way. And then other than that, it's just subjective. It's if what you're doing now, does it actually make you feel good? Do you sleep well? Do you feel energized? Are you able to do things that you want to do? That's also a good sign that what you're doing now is probably good for you.
What has worked the best for you to feel well, sleep well, and feel energized during your days?
It's never a single factor, unfortunately. It's always going to be lots of different factors. But food is always a big one. That's a chemical that you're exposing yourself to every single day. So food is a chemical, liquids and solids, and they're going to have different reactions in your body. So an example I give there would be, if you want to see how food gives you a reaction, take a couple of espressos. You're going to get a chemical reaction in your body, and you're going to know that you've had espresso from that. That's just a simple way to see it. It's like, oh yeah, if I take this, I know I'm going to get a reaction. So in that case there too, I think, and I have it all the time on the podcast with guests who talk about different types of diets that they follow. And you can see that, again, people react differently to different foods. And I think the same for myself, where I played around with different foods and I know that, hey, if I want to potentially feel a certain way, then I'll eat certain foods again there. So that's one big factor that I would say is just choosing what I expose myself to food-wise. Just trying to actually get to sleep on a good time too. Don't go to bed too late. So as the older I'm getting to, the earlier I want to go to bed. Like, I don't want to stay up too late in the evening, because I've also got young kids and they get up really early in the morning, and then I've got to be ready to go myself. So making sure that I also go to bed at a good time is a big thing. And then something else there, another simple thing to do, which I love, is just being able to get enjoyment, like mindfulness in a way. And mindfulness can be meditation, where you spend time just trying to do some meditative thinking or practice. But another one for me actually is music. Like, I just make sure that I expose myself to certain, I call it goosebump music. So music that actually gets me feeling really good, so that I can feel it changes my physiology. And I think exposing myself to that, plus all these other factors in a day, is probably the best things that I've been able to do to help myself.
Do you use any specific diet right now yourself, or are you just eating generally healthy, if that is even a thing?
Yeah, I play around. I'm not super strict on anything. I like the variability that comes with that choice. I'm lucky too, where certain people don't have that choice. Like, their system says, if you veer off this diet, you're going to feel it. Your body's going to become inflamed, your joints, your bowels are not going to be whatever. I'm lucky I don't have those symptoms, so I get to play around and have a lot more flexibility. But I would say right now, ever since I did that carnivore diet experiment last year, January, I think it was, I definitely eat a lot more meat now. I enjoy my meat. And yeah, it's, if I'm traveling and you're just looking for something to like put you back on track again, if you've gone a little bit off the off lane, then just trying to consume meat for a period of time again just brings me right back on track. So eating a lot more good quality meat is something I definitely make as a preference to my day if I can get it.
Do you know if there's any science behind why you feel better on meat, or why you think that all these people who are doing the carnivore diet, as you were last year, why do you think that the carnivore diet works for some people? Let's start there. Why do you think that?
Yeah, well, I think it works because the first way I looked at the carnivore diet was it's a elimination diet. So you're basically eliminating everything except meat. And even there, some people eliminate all kinds of meat except beef. And they may just only eat ribeyes or steaks for a period of 30 days. So if you're looking to get rid of all those chemical reactions I talked about earlier that food can give you, you've simplified your life, because all you're doing is drinking water and having one type of food. And then you can add in other types of food to see if you get a reaction or not. So I think that's why the carnivore diet can work so well for certain people, because who knows what in someone's standard diet is causing a reaction, if their diet's causing a reaction. But when you eliminate everything except this one variable, it makes your life so simple, and you can actually have such an extreme reaction, which is why I think certain people do have such extreme reactions in the positive direction from this way of eating. But that's where, when you were asking from the science point of view, probably what I learned was from Zofia Clemens, who runs the clinic out of Hungary, the Paleolithic ketogenic diet, where they use a high, I think it's 2-to-1 if I remember the ratio, with the fat to protein ratio. So they just eat very fatty foods for that PKD diet. And she was telling me then that the science for her in her clinic was showing her that it was intestinal permeability, so the gut lining, and how when they tested someone who came into the clinic before they started that way of eating, that they had leaky gut in a way. So they were actually seeing things cross the intestine barrier. And once they were eating that way and reducing the inflammation, the intestine was sealing up again, and they weren't getting those markers passed through. And so they could actually see, yes, what you're doing is actually creating a change to your body. And that's probably the science reason behind why people feel so good too.
Do you know if those people who were studied were patients who had problems, or if they were healthy young people?
Those are all patients. So her clinic tends to deal with very sick people. I see Zofia actually was looking to publish an article this month about a cancer patient, and it was brain cancer. And this is one of the longest surviving brain cancer patients for their type of brain cancer. And she was attributing it to the change in lifestyle and the change of way of eating, particularly with the PKD. And so her patient base, or that clinic patient base, I think is predominantly sick patients, not healthy people looking just to optimize themselves.
I see. Speaking of optimizing yourself, what do you do for cognitive enhancements?
There, probably what I talked about earlier was that music element to make you, to lift yourself. That's something simple. At the moment, I'm also just taking some mushroom supplements too. I do actually find the particular one from a company in Seattle called Natural Stacks, called Mycomind. I love that product. I think it's probably also because it's got PQQ in it, and that's a nice feeling too with the PQQ. So that in combination, so the supplements, the music, being present when you're around people too, so that you have that social aspect of things, and getting outside and just enjoying yourself. Those are probably, and a good sleep. I know if I don't have good sleep, my cognitive abilities are completely different. I start much slower in the day.
Yeah, I can see that in myself too when I don't get enough sleep.
Yeah, and something else actually. Yeah,
go ahead.
Actually, I know you're based in Sweden.
Mm-hmm.
Something else that I noticed, because originally I'm from South Africa, where there's lots of sunshine. Mm-hmm. And so I do know that when I moved to the Northern Hemisphere, the one thing I had to learn how to adjust to was just the reduced sunlight that you get in the Northern Hemisphere. which was very different to me being down in the southern hemisphere in South Africa there. And another thing, surprisingly, that actually really boosted my mood, I don't have it near me right now. I don't know if you've heard of a device called a human charger. Have you come across that yet?
I recognize the name, but I do not remember what it stands for. Please tell us.
So the human charger is just it's a little device now, and it comes with these two earplugs that shine light through your ears. So the idea is it's supposed to be like a light therapy box. I don't know if you've used it or if you know people where you go in front of a light box to improve your mood. So that seasonal affective disorder when people get depressed in winter because it's so dark. But this is basically just through your ears. So it's interesting because most of the time it should be going through your eyes. But that was another device from a brain point of view, cognition, mood. I actually found using that device made a difference for me, especially in the beginning when I was struggling a bit with the lack of sunlight.
So do you use it now still?
I haven't used it at the moment, but because I haven't felt too low. That was a period when I was really just struggling a little bit, and that was probably one of the biggest things that helped me. And magnesium, actually. Magnesium, I forgot about that. That's something I just take it regularly all the time. I find a good magnesium supplement for me is, again, just a really good thing from a body feeling point of view, nervous system, cognition thing too. Yeah, so good quality magnesium supplement, if needs be, top up with the human charger.
And music as well for
music's the simplest. I love music, because a big part of my belief system too, when it comes to a lot of these hints and tips that are available in the world, from such amazing people, is it scalable? Is it something that anyone in the world can do? So like right now, someone listening to your podcast in the middle of Asia in a jungle, or someone's in a sitting on a beach in Australia, or someone up in Scandinavia in a snow-laden house right now. Can they do what we're talking about, or is it can you only do what we're talking about in certain parts of the world, or when you only have certain access to certain brands or whatever? But at least with music, you don't have that issue at all, because you can listen to good music wherever you are. And that's such a simple thing to change someone's mood. And the way I would explain that is, if you're ever driving in a car and you put on a certain tune, or you hear something come through the radio or through your music system in your car, and immediately you want to turn the song up, you want to start singing, or it gives you goosebumps on your skin or something, I mean, you can see you have a reaction to the music itself. And I always think auditory things that come through that way is a quick way to improve someone's brain function, or to change their mood, put them in a different space.
Would you say that music changes your cognitive performance as well as your mood?
Well, I think if you're if you're less stressed, you should cognitively perform a bit better. So in one way, listening to music that puts your nervous system in a better state should, in theory, then, in my mind, improve your cognition. So it's not that the music itself goes straight to cognition, it's what it's doing to your nervous system, which allows you to tap into better cognition.
Yeah. I agree. I really do. Whenever I feel stressed for more than an hour, my cognitive performance starts declining instantly. It's very important, in my experience, to not let yourself stay stressed, really.
Oh yeah, and that's what most people suffer with, is chronic stress. So that you get stuck in this state. There was a really good book I read years ago that talked about the concept of future shock. So right now you could be talking to me, but your mind is actually already thinking of like, oh, I've got something to do in 1 hour's time, 2 hours tomorrow, next week. And so your brain never stops. You're always in this chronic, low level state of stress. And then at times you're peaking higher during the day, and that just burns you out. That just completely, wipes out your ability to perform as well as you can. So it's healthy that you have periods of stress, but it's very healthy that you have periods of no stress too. And
Yeah.
we all have different ways of how do you knock yourself out of that? How do you get yourself into that present moment where you aren't stuck in the future? You aren't worried about something that's giving you anxiety or whatever.
Yeah. How do you do that? Except for music.
Breathing's another simple way. So just actually taking notice of, all right, how am I breathing? Am I shallow breathing? Am I chest breathing? Maybe just take a couple of nice, easy diaphragm breaths, so belly breaths. That's a really, really simple way just to reset yourself. Yeah, that's another way that I would try. If I notice that I'm getting a bit wound up about something, with it, you could be in a meeting room with someone or a bunch of people and just changing the way you breathe. No one even knows, you're doing something to yourself, but you're actually changing yourself just by changing the way you breathe.
Right. Where can our listeners find you and the Biohackers Lab online?
Sure. So Biohackers Lab is available as a podcast on all the audio streaming platforms out there, from Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to it. It's available all over the place. Got a YouTube channel too, Biohackers Lab there, where I promote all the videos, and then the website, so biohackerslab.com is, and again, if you hit the biohackerslab.com homepage, you'll find links to everything wherever I happen to be.
All right. We'll link to those sources in the show notes. And thank you very much, Gary Kirwan, for joining us here on the Nootralize podcast.
Great. Thanks for having me again.